Hey, Zach Tyler here. This is video number 9 in my free course on how to build passive income streams using WordPress. To watch all of the training videos in the correct order, you can find all of them for free on my website at zylercade.com/free-training. Enjoy. Please note, some sections of the original course content have been modified or removed in order to make this content relevant and up to date for 2024. All right, welcome to the creating and editing phase of this course, or as I like to call it, the design phase. In this next video, we are going to be talking about actually starting to create our content that all of the stuff that we brainstormed, we've got a bunch of ideas. Now it's time to start putting pen to paper or fingers to keys or however it is that you're going to do it. So in this video, we're going to talk about creating content, going to go over the creating and scheduling tracker, planning and outlining using a couple of different methods depending on what your preferred way is, batch creation, online resources, and dynamic repurposing, which we're going to touch over a little bit. We're actually going to dive into that more in the next section. But basically that is just like taking your original single piece of content and repurposing it for other platforms. So with that being said, first thing we're going to talk about is the create and schedule tracker. Now, what the create and schedule tracker is basically taking, so in the last video, we used the brainstorming tracker to basically come up with a bunch of content ideas. So that was going to be this one right here. So hopefully after you watch that, you did some market research, got a bunch of questions or a bunch of topics that you now know that you can create content around, and you have them all listed here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take all of those that you wrote down. And I actually have 2 different pages because I just wrote down a bunch. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take all of these and basically transfer them from here over to what's called the content create and schedule tracker. Now, full transparency, personally, I actually don't really use the brainstorming matrix anymore. I'm kind of at the point now where it's really easy for me to just kind of like, between doing market research or just coming up with stuff off the top of my head, I can pretty much just put them straight on here. So this content brainstorming tracker is really just to kind of help you get in the process of being able to come up with content ideas or doing market research to come up with content ideas. As you do it more and more, as you continue going through this process over and over again, you'll start to realize that it becomes easier and easier for you to come up with ideas. If that's the case, you actually don't need to use the brainstorming matrix. You can just start putting stuff on the create and schedule tracker, which is really just what I do. I basically just put all of my headlines or my titles over here on the left-hand side, and then from there, I just kind of go from there. So obviously you guys can only see like my little camera screen right down at the bottom, so you can't really see this, but I literally just took all of the stuff off of the brainstorming matrix and listed it here. And just for easier viewing, I actually did type it up as well in the editable one. So I took like I said, all the stuff from the content brainstorming matrix, and I put it into what is called the content create and schedule tracker. So now I have all of those topics, headlines, titles listed over here on the left, right? Like my first one, what is survival prepping and why it's important, how to get started, basic supplies, how long you should prep for, good food options for long-term storage, right? These are all related to my niche, my general prepping and survival niche. Now, one of the things that I personally do, you don't have to do this. I'm just crazy when it comes to like organization, like being organized and everything. So up in this top left area, you've got this little white box. I personally, like for this one, I put an A. And then so that way, like if I need to, as I'm creating the draft documents, which you'll see in a second, like if I'm working on this one right here, how to store water for emergency situations, I'll also put a little mark on the title called A6 so that I just know that like this is the piece of content that I'm working on, because I'll actually create the drafts and put the drafts in my Google Drive. And so again, you should have you have a free Google account now, so you will also have access to a Google Drive. So in order to get to it, you can just go to drive.google.com, or if you're logged into like your Gmail, you can just click this little like thing up here and come to the Drive button, and it will open up your Drive. You can come in here, and I'll actually just like your computer, I'll create a new folder, right? So I'm going to create a new folder called Skill of Survival, and so now I have this folder in here, and in here is where I'll actually start to create my drafts, right? So if I'm going to do this first one, like, and I said I called this one A, so I'll put an A right there, and then when I create my next sheet for like my next round, I'll call the next one B, and then I'll call the next one C. That way, that's how I keep all of my documents organized. So as I'm creating my drafts, in this first one, A1 is what is survival prepping and why it's important. So I'll actually come in here, right, and I'll click Create New. I'll create a new Google Doc, and I will name this Google Doc A1, and then whatever my title is. So what is survival prepping? What is survival prepping and why it's important? So now I have this document that I can start putting stuff for my blog post in this draft. So this is just my draft. I'm going to refresh that so it updates the title. And now I can see like A1 is going to be equivalent to this A1 right here. So as I finish my outline, this is where I'll start checking stuff off. And so I'll put like a check mark right here. And again, I actually do this all on paper. I don't do it on my computer. I like the whole paper aspect better. So I'll put this in a binder and I'll literally just like, okay, when I've done an outline, I'll check it off. When I create all of the other content, I'll check it off. So just so you guys know like kind of what we're looking at right now, we have the outline, which is like what I consider the base outline. So whether I'm doing it through brain dump, which we'll get into in a minute, going through my outline creator, going through using the online tools like ChatGPT, or you'll also see a tool called Copy AI that I use as well, which we'll get into in a minute. Once I'm done, I got all my information in here and I'm ready to put it onto my blog as a draft. That's when I will check it off here. Then we have a couple of other sections. Now, right now, we are only focused for this kind of first couple rounds of getting all this content out. I only am going to focus on our drafts and getting them into blog posts, right? That's our only thing that we're focusing on right now. So don't let this overwhelm you. We are going to go through and create an outline for all of these before we even look at any of this other stuff. With that being said, I just want you to know what you're looking at. So we have it broken down. I've got short videos, short text, long video or long text, long videos, and link share. So what does that mean? So the short videos, also called verts. This TK is for TikTok, IGR is for Instagram Reels, and YTS is for YouTube Shorts. Now, these are all together because if you're going to post it on one, you might as well post it on all three, right? All three of these are vertical videos, short vertical videos. Our short text here for TT, that's going to be either a Twitter thread or a Twitter tweet. So what you'll find is once you have an outline in a blog post, essentially an entire blog post, you will take an entire blog post and you can break it down into 20 different tweets, right? 20 individual tweets, a couple different Twitter threads, and then you can use your Twitter threads as the basis for creating your vertical videos, and then you can use your blog posts as a basis for like a YouTube script, like a YouTube video script. So really how much you want to do with this is completely up to you. Obviously, the more you do, the better, because the more reach you're going to get, the faster you're going to grow. But again, right now we're only focused on text. We're only focused on the outlines and getting them into the blog post. And that brings us to this section, the long text. So blogs are going to be the very first thing. After we do our outlines, the first thing we're going to do is our blogs. And then you'll just see that there's a line in between each of these. The left side is for created, and the right side is for scheduled or posted, depending on if you're going to be doing automated or not. So the same thing, the reason why I have these four combined with each other is because, again, just like the short videos, if you're going to do one, you might as well do all three because you can literally use the same piece and just put it on a different platform. Same thing can be said about blogs. And then EML is for email. So if you have an email list, Medi is for medium.com, which is just a blog platform, a free blog platform that you can sign up for free and just literally, so you're going to post your blog on your website, your blog post on your website, and then you can go onto medium.com and literally import it and post it on medium.com, and then now you're getting exposure there for free. And then same thing with LinkedIn. If you don't have a LinkedIn account, you can create a free LinkedIn account, and then same thing, you can recreate your blog post on LinkedIn. Again, put the link to your website in your profile or whatever, and these are just easy, free ways to get exposure to your website, which is where all of your links will be and where you can generate all of your income. This one right here, long vid, is going to be a YouTube video. So again, I use all of my blog posts as scripts for my YouTube videos that I do. And then link share is just being able to share links to stuff externally. So we have Facebook posts, which is the FBP, and then the PINT is Pinterest. So if you're going to create blog posts, you can actually create a free Pinterest account, and then you can just put in the link for your blog post. So again, I'll show you how to do this later, but you can plug in, so you'll put your blog post, you'll take the link, and you'll go share it on your Facebook page. And then same thing with Pinterest, you can go share it on Pinterest, and Pinterest will pull the images from it, put a little excerpt or whatever, and then we'll share it to Pinterest, and you can put hashtags and things on there. Again, just another free method to get free traffic back to your website, which is where all of your monetization, or a lot of your monetization, will come into play. So just to give you an overview of what you're looking at right now with this create and schedule tracker. So what we're going to do is with this first one, what is survival prepping and why it's important, I'm actually going to go through and show you how I'm going to set up this entire thing, kind of the tools that I'm going to use to do it. So just like we kind of did the batch idea creation, right? You've sat down and come up with a whole list of stuff that we're going to create, or ideas that, of content you can create. Now, essentially, we're going to go through what I call the batch creation process. Now, there are two ways to do this. We can do it manually, and then there are some tools we can use to kind of automate it. Now, obviously, the manual process is going to take a little bit longer than the automated process. But again, if you're talking about a niche that you actually have skill and information and knowledge about, then if you follow the manual templates and manual kind of like fill in the blank PDFs that we have here, it should still be pretty quick for you to kind of, sit down, and even if you can't necessarily be sitting at your computer the whole time, like if you're with the kids watching TV, or, when your spouse watching TV or whatever, you can print a couple of these out and literally just like sit, on the couch and kind of fill these out to be able to come back and fill them in later. So we're going to talk about the manual process versus the automated process. One of the things I definitely want to mention is called pastor copywriting. So whenever you're creating content, and when I say content, specifically I'm thinking blog posts, but really any kind of content, you want to think of what's called pastor, and it stands for problem, amplify, story or solution, transformation or testimony, offer and response. And so what this basically means is you want to start the information or the blog post off with like a problem, right? Like what is the main problem that people often face when it comes to this particular thing? So when it comes to like what is survival prepping and why it's important, the problem might be, well, people, don't know what to do. They don't know how to do it. They don't know what skills they should know. They don't know what resources they need. They don't know like all of this information. Amplify simply means how did those things negatively affect them, right? So if I don't know anything about survival prepping and why it's important, then that's going to negatively affect my life, because perhaps I could die, right? Or my family could get injured, or could end up starving, right? I could end up running out of water. I could freeze to death, or I could, these are all of these problems that would be the effects of not dealing with the problem. So then story or solution is, how can you resolve these problems, right? These are where tools come into play, resources come into play, education comes into play, or if you have a personal story about how you dealt with something, or you were faced with a situation of a problem and how you resolved it, right? That's where transformation and testimony kind of come into play too. Story and transformation, or solution and transformation, kind of like go hand in hand. Offer is then like if you have an offer to give them, for example, buy this resource, buy this tent, buy this tool, buy this whatever. And then response is, or just a call, is also known as a call to action, basically getting them to do something. Now, offer and response don't necessarily need to be in all of your content. I just, from a creation standpoint, as you're creating blogs and articles, I want you to think about this process, right? Did I mention a problem? Did I mention the negative effects of that problem? Did I mention a solution to the problem? And how will this solution help somebody go from negative point A to positive point B? So that is just something I kind of want to be in the back of your mind as you're, creating this content. Other thing, types of content. We kind of brushed on that briefly by looking at the content create and schedule tracker. We've got short text, so like Twitter. We have long text, will be blogs, emails, basic blogs and emails, and then blogs that just get reshared to other platforms. Then we have short video, right? So TikToks, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, and then long videos being YouTube videos. Now, which ones you decide to go with over the long term is going to be completely up to you. I personally do all of them, because to me, the broader you can get, the more reach you can get, the better. What you need to realize is that a lot of people are not consuming the same types of content across all spectrums. So for example, the same person, and this is how what dynamic repurposing also kind of is, the person who's going to read your entire blog article is not necessarily the same person who's going to go watch your TikTok, or the person who's going to go read your tweets in your Twitter threads is not necessarily the person who is going and watching your YouTube videos. So that is why you want to create different types of content, all covering the same topics, right? So for this, just using this one example that we're going to create, like what is survival prepping and why it's important, I want to answer that same question on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube, on Twitter, on my blog, on Medium, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, long YouTubes versus short YouTubes, because even though you're creating the same content and putting it across multiple places, different people are going to consume different types of content. And so that is why I have this here, just so you know that right now our focus is going to be long text first, because our number one focus is going to be our blog posts. But from those blog posts, where you decide to take that content, whether it be in short form video, long form video, short short form text. That's going to be completely up to you. So, and then lastly, time blocking. So I know I mentioned this before. In the same way that you want to block out time to like watch these videos, watch this training, you also want to block out time for batching creation. You're going to want to, once a week, set an hour, put it on your phone, put it on your calendar. Every Friday night at 6 p.m. is when I'm going to sit down and come up with 20 ideas, right? Like that's going to be your idea hour. And then, you can say Monday at, 7 p.m. is when I'm going to do 7 of my outlines. So, if you've noticed, these are broken into 7s and I have this bold line here. Focus on doing 7 at a time, right? And just get 7 of your outlines done. Then the next night, an hour or two, you're like, okay, on Tuesday or maybe Wednesday from 7 to 9 p.m., I am going to focus on creating the 7 videos, like the 7 short form videos, and getting them scheduled, like getting them created. And then the next night you get them scheduled and you pre-schedule them. So you want to block out everything that we do, you want to block out time for. Otherwise, chances are that you are just not going to do it consistently. I know this from saying this from personal experience. So definitely want to put all of these things on your schedule. So first way that we're going to talk about creating content is manual planning and outlining. So this is what I call brain dumping. And we've got 2 matrices that you can use to do this process. We have the content outline matrix and the vertical planner matrix. So the first one we're going to look at is the content outline matrix. This is where I would put like up the top, A1, right? Because I said I'm doing this first one, which I'm calling A1. So I would just like write up here, A1, or actually, so this is where I would put, A1 or A01, whatever. What is survival prepping and why is it important? Okay, so this is going to be, the outline for this, right? So my brain dump, this is literally where you're going to put everything that comes to mind for whatever this particular question is, right? So for me, I'm like, okay, well, it's important. So what is survival prepping, right? It's preparing for disasters or emergency situations. It involves food prep, storage. It involves water purification and storage, shelter and evacuation procedures, bug out kits, which is like an emergency bag, bug out locations, plans, self-defense. And then, so why is it important, right? So for safety of you and your family, health, don't want to eat bad food, right? I'm not gonna go through this whole thing, but you get the idea. Basically, you want to just brain dump everything that you know about this particular topic, okay? So then we move on to the next problem. Okay, what is the big problem? So what is the main problem of somebody who doesn't know this information? The big problem is, they don't know how to properly store food, don't know what water is considered good or bad to drink, can get really sick, which, by the way, in case you don't know, you never want to drink still water. In an emergency situation, you always want to, if you have to drink water out in the wild or whatever, never drink from a still body of water. You always want to drink it from a river or something, or a running body of water, because still water is where bacteria grows. So again, I'm not going to go through this whole thing, but just so you can understand kind of the thought process. Okay, what is the big benefit? Would be safe, right? Like safety and security, survive emergency situations, protect your health, family, self, right? And you list all of the benefits of why it's good to know this information. And then objections. How do people talk themselves out of solving this problem? Honestly, I don't think people think about it. They don't think about it until it's too late, right? Most people don't think about emergency or disaster preparedness until it's too late. Or, people don't have the income to spend on extra resources to put away for emergency situations, right? If you're, don't have a lot of money, you're not thinking about putting things away for emergency situation. You can barely survive on the day-to-day as it is, right? So maybe, and again, this is where you'll start to be like, oh, there's another thing I can make, because as I'm writing this right now, I'm like, oh, income, saving money. How can I do this on a budget, right? So that's an entire other group of content pieces that I can make all focus on budget, right? Budget bug out kits, budget tools, budget supplies, budget food, like every budget shelter stuff, like anything that you can do on a budget so that even people who don't necessarily have extra spending money can still get themselves set to be prepared for emergency situations. So you're going to go through this whole kind of content outline thing. And then from here is where you would go into your document and start outlining that, right? Thinking from the pastor situation, first thing I would do is problem, right? And I just start writing out, what is the problem? And this is where ChatGPT can come into play. And well, this is the first place that it can come into play. Amplify, solution, transformation. I will actually we're going to go over two tools. The first one being ChatGPT, which I already showed you before. We're going to jump into again, just so I can show you how I use it for this example. So first thing I would go here is like, okay, what is survival prepping and why is it important? So literally I'll just start with that. Like why, so what is survival prepping and why is it important to know? So now this is going to spit out what I consider to be like the introductory paragraphs for me. So this is going to write a few paragraphs, and while it's doing that, I then want to, show you how I'm going to kind of look at it from this perspective. I will say, when I do this now, I don't put these problem, amplify, solution, transformation. I just kind of like do it all. It becomes second nature once you kind of understand it. So survival, prepping is the practice of this, that, the other, blah, blah. I'm going to copy that and paste it. Great. So now, another great thing about ChatGPT is it can continue the conversation. So now I can say, okay, what are some of the biggest problems, right? Because again, we're using pastor, right? So problems. So what are some of the biggest problems what are some of the biggest problems people face when it comes to this? Right? So you don't even need to say this, emergency disaster situations, blah, blah, whatever. Now it's going to tell me like, okay, these are some of the challenges people face when trying to do this thing. And so it's going to give me all this information. I'm going to copy it over and I'm going to go to the next thing. I'm going to go to the amplify. So I'm literally just going to say, okay, how do all of these problems negatively impact somebody's, life or ability to prep? So copy that problem. Good. Okay. So amplify. How do these problems negatively impact people's lives? And so now we're doing the amplify. And so now it's literally giving me the problem that each one will cause. So this one was just telling us what the problem is, right? The cost. Building emergency stockpile can be expensive. Now the negative of that is if people are unable to afford it, they may be at a disadvantage in an emergency situation. So we have the problem and we have the amplified negative effect. I'm going to go ahead and copy that. And okay, so what are the solutions? So that is how that you can start to build this draft of this article that you can then, again, take your own personal information, personal experience, add to. You can take away things that you don't agree with and, add in items, right? And like add in, eventually we're going to, show you how you can add in like monetizable features. So for example, when it's talking about the cost, right? And it's going through the solutions right now, we could then list like some cheap items that can be found on Amazon and put affiliate links to. Like space, cheap, containers, small containers or stackable containers, stuff like that. So I'm going to skip the transformation for now. I'm going to do all and just go to normal text just so that it makes that all. So now here we have our draft, my A1 draft, without even really having to do anything. So now I'm going to go log into the website just so I can show you really quickly how I will then take this. And once I am logged into the dashboard, then go over to, and you can actually, so you can do one of two things. I used to put all of my drafts in just in like Google Docs and put them all together here. And then once it was good here, I would copy it over to WordPress. You can do that if you want to. I still do that sometimes just from the organizational standpoint of like the A1, A2, whatever. But I can also just come over and go to my posts. And I would click add new post. And for my title, so it was what is survival prepping and why it's important. And then I'd come to copy AI and copy all of that and put it into here. And now I have this entire blog post, draft ready. And I can just click save draft. And now it's a draft in here. So if I actually go back to all of my posts, I now have this, what is survival prepping and why it's important. I'm categorized right now, right? I haven't done anything with it. And then this is where I'll start to go and like tweak it. And so I will literally go down until I've made all of these drafts. I'll make a bunch of drafts. And as I make them, I will come check them off here, right? So I can put an X there, right? And then once I do this one, I'll put an X and I'll put an X. And once I have all 7 of my drafts, then the next thing I do is, and you're going to want to add pictures, right? Don't forget to follow the Yoast SEO. So like my focus key phrase, I would make my focus key phrase survival prepping. Copy. So survival prepping. And then, same thing, I'd put whatever my SEO title is, I would just copy my headline title and probably put that in here. And then for my meta description, I usually just take like maybe the first sentence, like the introduction or something like that. So copy that as long as it has that keyword and remember. So there we go. Again, save draft. Now my SEO is already orange. It wants some other things like outbound links, images, internal links. So we'll get to those eventually, but add some images, add some links, add some, affiliate links, add some products in here if I need to. And then when it comes time to either publish or schedule, which we'll get more into when it comes to the auto scheduling, but you just come to post, and for publish, you just click immediately. And instead of doing immediately, you would just set whatever date and time you want it to publish. And let's say I did, tomorrow at 8 a.m. or 8:55 a.m. and click X, and I would click schedule, and then it would be scheduled to be posted for whatever day I posted it. So this is how, again, I'll go through, I'll make all of these drafts, I'll perfect them all so that they all look the way that I want them to look, and then I will schedule them all, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7. So as I schedule out these 21 blog posts over the course of the next few weeks, next few days, next few weeks, while those are all being auto-scheduled, I then go back and I start back up at the top again, and that's when I start making all of the vertical videos. And then once I have all of those made and scheduled, I then go back and start auto-scheduling the tweets, and go back and auto-schedule make the long videos. And so it's just about getting out the first set of information, pre-scheduling it all, and then going back and making all the next information, pre-scheduling it and going back. And so eventually you just have this constantly flowing information stream across all of your social media. And that is basically how the automation process works, which again, we'll get back into later. So from a manual perspective, I kind of went a little bit out of order. I wanted to do all the manual stuff first and then go into the automated, but I already covered basically the automated portion, right? Using ChatGPT, ThinkPaster. Please excuse the quick interruption. If you're watching this on YouTube and you're finding this video helpful so far, please hit the like button and subscribe for more helpful content like this. And if you are enjoying this content, then you will love my free community. Lazy Worker University is a free membership-based community dedicated to helping you unlock your potential by teaching you various digital skills and passive income strategies. Some of the things that you'll find inside include monthly group coaching calls, comprehensive courses, community connections with other like-minded entrepreneurs, networking opportunities, and so much more. You can join for free by visiting zylercade.com/LWU or by using the link in the description below. Additionally, if you would like to learn how to automate this entire process even more, then you're definitely going to want to check out my free content creation automation workshop, which you can find at zylercade.com. Now, back to the training. So with that being said, I will cover the other manual portion just really quick, what I call the Vert Planner. And this is from, again, just a kind of a brain dump, but basically how I would then take, once I've created all of my drafts, and let's say, I have this draft and it's all done and it's got all the information I need in it. I basically take what's like the actionable steps. So in this particular one, I maybe would focus, because verticals, you're going to have your TikToks, your Instagram Reels, your YouTube Shorts. You want those to be actionable advice or helpful tips, something that helps somebody. That makes it shareable, and that's what people are looking for, answers to questions. So that's the kind of content that does the best. So for this particular question, what is survival prepping and why it's important, I'm going to make the verticals for this going to be focused on the solutions, right? So if we go back to the examples here, or the information that I got from ChatGPT, I would honestly, we could make multiple videos, right? So like I could just make one based on cost. And the vertical could say something along the lines of, it'll be like a stock video of some emergency situation, right? And it will say problem, building an emergency stockpile can be expensive. And then it'll switch over to something that says like solution, start small by building gradually over time, and then give, a list of a couple of pieces that are cheap to start, right? And I could do the same thing with space. So I could do problem, space, solution, whatever. So that's one way that I could create multiple videos videos just with this one piece of information. And just because we only have one spot here doesn't mean you only can make one video for that piece. You can make, if you can make 4, 5, 6, 7 out of a single piece, like great, all the power to you. Same thing, if we were just gonna do one video for these, instead of it focusing on that one thing, we could just say the biggest problems people face when it comes to, prepping, and then just list cost, space, lack of information, procrastination, sustainability, right? And just list out the 8s. Or even more so, I could say, make a video that says, this is what happens when you don't prepare for disaster. Unable to do this, limited space, you don't know what to do, putting off prepping, right? And I can list off all of these things. And how we actually go into creating those, we'll get into in another video. But just, again, to give you guys some kind of ideas as to how this process works, literally follow the trackers, follow the matrices, and then, and that's what I was saying, leads me to the VERT planner, which that is all this is. So the ID is just, again, talking about that A1, right? So going back here, talking about this one right here is A1. That's what I put here. So for ID, I just put A1. That way, again, it keeps me organized. I print this out and I will literally write A1, A2, A3, A4. So I have them already here. For the names or the topics, I literally just put the title, right? So this first one would be, actually, VERT planner, right? So I put, A1, what is survival prepping and why it's important. That's what I consider a talking head. These are just things that I have come up with myself that you don't have to use it. IVR stands for information with B-roll. So that would be like a video of just not me, but maybe stock video footage with information like over the text, or like text over the video. Style and design notes, I will literally just go on Instagram or TikTok and look at other people's stuff and be like, oh, like I like that. I like the way they did that, and just make notes for it. The headline, again, would be something like, 8 benefits of survival prepping. And then I'd say, 1, save money by doing gradually over time, right? 2, save space by using X products. 3, right? And so I would list them out based on what, like, information, lack of information. So like prep for information, don't worry about procrastination. And so I would fill all that out. Call to action, that's usually when you're saying like, go to my website to learn more, right? Go to the website and my link to learn more. So go to link in bio to learn more, right? Because the call to action is what gets people to go to your website, which is where your monetization happens. And then same thing, I just keep it tracked here, recorded and edited. You don't have to use these if you don't want to, if you're going to just focus on keeping them here, created and scheduled, recorded. So I like to do recorded and edited. And then once they get scheduled, right, then that's when I come over here and put created and scheduled. And then for each one scheduled, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. And then sometimes I'll actually take these and also turn them into tweets and also turn them into Twitter threads. Again, don't have to, but you can. It's just another tool. The point is, use the tools that work for you, that you like, that make sense for you. If you find that you're like, this is an extra step, I don't need that, or I'd rather just focus on, just following this and not using anything else, then great, just do that. These are just all tools that I personally use to help keep me organized and in a good flow, because that's personally the biggest problem I have struggled with is flow and consistency and making sure like I constantly have stuff going. So this just helps me do that. So that covers the manual, both the content outlining tracker and the matrix and the VERT planner. There's also a content structure breakdown. I'm not going to super dive into this. You can check it out if you want. It is also in the matrices. This just basically gives you kind of an overview of how content should be structured, and then the creation order. So you always want to focus on the main points first. Always focus on getting the body done first. After you've done the body, then that's when you focus on a lead. Then you do the summary, and then you do your call to actions, and then the last thing you end with is your hook. And your hook is like, the power of like really gets people's attention. And actually there is also a hook. We do have hooks listed as well. So if you go into the hooks template, this gives you a bunch of hooks. Now these hooks are designed technically for Twitter, but you can change them to be outside of Twitter. Like they don't have to be focused on Twitter, right? So if we're talking about like the, natural disaster situation, like this one, where to go? What is survival prepping and why it's important? you could use one like 8, like this one says number, topic, rules everyone should learn by whatever. So I could say like 8 emergency or disaster prepping rules everyone should learn by, age 25 or age 18, something like that. So depending on what your content's about is going to change kind of like which hooks you can use. And you don't have to use these. These are just some examples. Again, like I said, they're focused mostly for Twitter, but that is how you kind of want to think about creating your hooks for your content as well. I hope you found this video helpful and you're enjoying the rest of the course content. Links for all of the tools, platforms, and resources mentioned in this video can be found below. Additionally, if you have any questions or need further guidance, feel free to leave your questions or comments in the comment section or reach out in our free membership community. You can also find additional free training and other valuable resources at xylarcade.com. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care.